I am live today on the Mind Invention program with one Evan Ringler, the head of analytics at Player Profiler. We're going to talk rankings, best ball rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, fast draft rankings, all the rankings today with Evan. Welcome. Let's just kick it off. Let's just do it. Let's just go right to it. I dropped a video, love, hate, Devon Achane. Okay, love, hate, Devon Achane. We're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins today. We're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. You know, where are you drafting Marvin Harrison? That's a big open question right now. He's on the move. He's moving up. There's a ton of value that we see in best ball right now, which is typical. Mid-May, you're going to see a lot of value on the board in best ball leagues. And we're going to see how these dynasty drafts are shaken out, especially new startups that are happening, rookie drafts that are happening, where the value is in rookie drafts, in startups. So we're gonna riff it. We have no show sheet today. Evan and I are going show sheet. We haven't planned anything. I know we're going to talk Marvin Harrison. I know we're going to talk Devon Achane, and that is about it. So off we go. On the one hand, I do like the player, Devon Achane. I like him. He catches passes, number 2 in targets last year among NFL running backs. And I like that there's not a lot of dynamic playmakers in Miami, especially if Tyreek Hill wants to opt out and just, sit out. But this is not a touchdown-rich environment in Miami. So even though I posted a video that said I equally love and hate him, I am definitively fading Achane. Should I be?
I think you should be. Last year, the Dolphins had the lowest pace above expectation in the league. Tua's A-dot has fallen by 4 yards over the past 3 years.
Oh, Jesus.
And yeah, there's really just no upside in this offense. Last year, on the ground, they had the worst yards per carry in the league.
Wait, what? With
Yeah.
Achane, when you factor in all
Yeah.
his carries, they still had the worst
Yep.
yards per carry as a team,
Yep.
and they lost Teron Armstead.
Correct.
So you could add guard play, but still, when you lose your cornerstone left tackle, that means everyone has to shift over. That means the whole offensive line is weaker because of it. Even if it's not the most critical position for run blocking, it still matters. It still matters. Every time you see an offensive line lose their best player, they get worse. Even if they're bringing in, they're trying. You can see they're scrambling in Miami to try to patch this thing back together. Like they are like a ship at sea with holes in the hull, and they're just trying to patch it, and they're just running around, pounding these wedges into the holes, seeing if they can plug the thing. And they're not going to be able to plug this thing. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to be the first coach fired.
Yeah, wouldn't be shocked at all. It's clear that the defenses have also kind of solved this offense, which is why that A-dot has fallen so much, is because they can't throw downfield like they used to. And now it's all check downs, which, yes, a lot of them go to Devon Achane, and that's great for his floor, but the ceiling just really isn't there.
Well, it's bad for the offense in general that they don't have
Right.
the deep threat is now also well over 30 years old. I mean, they might be better off flip-flopping Waddle and Hill with the positions they play and having Waddle run more deep routes, Hill run more shallow routes. That could be the way to go. Whether they're that creative with it, I don't know. How much Hill plays this year, I don't know. Every time you see a field stretcher starting to head into their early 30s, it never ends well. It never ends well. The best case scenario is you're Steve Smith and you become like a bully possession receiver. And maybe Tyreek Hill can become that. But it doesn't sound like that's what he wants.
That would be pretty shocking to me. Just from a play style perspective, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Tyreek Hill moving to Steve Smith. Last year, Tyreek was 38th in both target share and yards per route run. So it's not like from a metrics perspective, he was great either.
He's fading. He's getting older. He's an old
Yeah.
field stretcher. This is how it works. I can't understand The Tyreek Hill ADP makes no sense to me. The Achane ADP makes no sense to me. So if I had to pick two players on the same team with the most, aggregate nonsensical ADP, it would be Achane and Hill. If I would draft all my best ball teams, like if I were on Fast Draft and I'm drafted in the Flex 4 game, and I have 1% Achane and I have 1% Hill, I would be okay with that. Probably want a little bit more Achane. Achane can hurt you. If things do break right for Achane, he can hurt you. So you'd probably want a little bit more Achane. In fact, before the show, I did a mock draft because on Fast Draft, there's a mock draft section, and you can do Flex 4 mock drafts. So if you're thinking about doing an Origins tournament for the first time, an all-rookie tournament for money, or the defense tournament, the D-up game, if you're thinking about doing these tournaments for the first time, go to the mock draft section and do a new mock draft, and you can mock against the ADP. You can get comfortable. You can be like, okay, this is where these guys are going generally. Here's how I would probably end up building a team, all else equal, from this draft position or that draft position or that draft position. And that could be a lot of fun. And I did that, and surprisingly, I ended up with Achane. He just kept slipping and slipping and slipping, and ended up getting him because eventually you get to a point where if Jonathan Taylor's off the board and Christian McCaffrey's off the board, then the question was, well, maybe I can get Achane and Breece Hall, right? And so that was the calculation I tried to get. I was like, well, at the end of the second round, I might be able to get Achane and then also come right back with Breece Hall. I can do that. I prefer Breece Hall, and then of course I miscalculated and I got sniped the pick before. I got sniped and Breece Hall was taken. So if I could go back in time and do it again, I would go Breece Hall. To me, Breece Hall has all the benefit that you get from Achane, but a more stable situation.
They're going to run the ball a lot more, that's for sure.
They're going to run the ball
with
more.
Justin Fields in the backfield, you have that Alfred Morris corollary.
Yeah, he's going to be more efficient, and he's also bigger. There's a little less injury risk with Breece Hall just because he is that much bigger. I mean, we're talking about, close to 30 pounds difference, at least 25 pounds?
Yeah, something like that.
So that matters. That matters a lot. So you think that if you were to build like a do not draft list or a fade list of running backs in the top 100, would Achane be in your top 5?
Yeah, I think he has to be. There's really nobody that sticks out as much as he does, in my opinion. Some others that you could throw in there, and I wouldn't criticize you, would be maybe James Cook or Bucky Irving at 22 overall.
Oh,
yeah. Most of the late guys in the top 100 still are pretty good values, like Brian Robinson, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift. I guess Judkins is another one at 72 overall that I don't love that ADP. He would probably be in that top 5 too.
The Judkins ADP also, makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, what are you hoping for? Like, explain this to me. Like, explain it to me. You're going to go draft Judkins in what, the 7th round? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you're going to draft Judkins in the 7th round. What is the bull case? What's the best that could happen? Is there a world where Judkins is a league winner for the Browns?
I think the bull case is that he gets 300 carries and just happens to fall into the end zone more times than you expect. But I don't understand the bull case for the Browns offense in general.
Well, no, it's fine if they didn't draft Dylan Sampson.
Right. Right.
If they didn't draft Dylan Sampson, well, the other problem is Jerome Ford was very efficient last year. Top 10 in a lot of these efficiency categories on Player Profiler. So now we're talking about 3 highly competent running backs on one of the worst offenses in the league. And you can't project Judkins as a rookie, as a relatively young rookie, to command this huge opportunity share. Like, the only way it makes sense is if he completely and utterly blots out the sun with the opportunity share on a bad offense, a low volume offense. But you can't project that.
Yeah. No, for sure. We're still high on him in Dynasty relatively. Um, like him a lot as a player, but at the end of the day, the offense is the most important thing.
Yeah, there's just no way to justify drafting him in best ball. He's very much a dynasty. It's one of those cases where you love a guy in dynasty, great pick in dynasty, and you just want nothing to do with him this year, even though he's set up to get opportunity this year. Typically, that scenario unfolds with a wide receiver who's going to be parked this year, like a Jalen Noel.
Yeah.
I love him in Dynasty, but I wouldn't draft him in a best ball league, or I could draft him very late, depending on ADP.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be aggressively drafting a player like that, given how ambiguous the target distribution is going to be in Houston. So it's almost like much more frequently a position you would take on a wide receiver. We're actually taking on Judkins this year, where it's like, no, this is actually more of a long-term play because the offense will be better and he will sort of grow and evolve with this franchise and will gain value over the years. That's what you're hoping for. It's not going to be this big home run this year. And yeah, you look up and it's like, yeah, his ADP is just it's shockingly high. I expected after the draft that when he goes to Cleveland and then they add Dylan Sampson, I'm like, okay, this was the SEC rushing leader, Dylan Sampson. I'm like, okay, we'll see how far Judkins falls in the best ball ADP. And then to my surprise, there was
Yeah.
very little
Yeah.
movement.
Yeah. He's barely fallen. And Sampson is absolutely tumbled. He's at 185 overall, while Judkins is at 72, which that discrepancy is way too large, in my opinion. Sampson is a good pick there.
Yeah, Sampson's actually the pick, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Relative to ADP, no doubt.
Yeah, Sampson's the pick. Judkins has dropped a couple spots, and Sampson gets crushed. Like that doesn't see right there. There's an arbitrage opportunity you can see where it's
Yeah.
like, well, what if Judkins struggles in camp? What if Judkins has ball security issues? Because those oftentimes just don't surface at the college level, and then suddenly at the professional level, even a player as big and strong as Judkins, these things can happen, and there's some injury that happens. These rookie running backs are more injury prone than running backs that have been seasoned at the NFL level. So that's interesting. Well, let's go back to the early part of drafts, the top of the rankings, and just think about the first round. Is there anyone in the first round? So one thing I can say right away that we're relatively high on Ashton Genty in the
Hmm.
first round. I see in particular on Fast Draft where he won't go in the top 10. He won't go in the first round. And he'll go at the top of the second round. And to me, he and Gibbs should be adjacent. And they're not. And so that's an interesting, I think, inefficiency in the first round. Are there any other first round inefficiencies where you see, I think we're a little bit lower on Justin Jefferson than consensus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a little bit. I mean, it's basically a rookie quarterback that he's playing with. A rookie quarterback that, by the way, didn't have to throw very much in college. Really, nothing was on his shoulders at Michigan. So I'm just a little bit concerned about that offense, especially relative to a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who is going to see 160 targets and just continue to produce. With Dak Prescott, which is a big upgrade over JJ McCarthy for sure.
Hmm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Christian McCaffrey, his ADP may creep into the first round. Do you think it will by the time we get into the summer?
Yeah, probably. I would expect so. Right now he's at 12.2 on underdog. So he's just right there. It'll happen any week now, would be my guess.
Yep. Those days when you can get McCaffrey at like pick 18, 19, 20, bye-bye. I
Yeah,
can't
see
believe
ya.
that we ever lived in that world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another big stance of ours right now is just being high on all the Niners All the Niners offense is going to explode this year. Their defense is falling apart, and they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, which helps not only Brock Purdy but all of the skill players there.
We talked quite a bit about Brock Purdy on the Decision Point show with Anand and Dury, and Brock Purdy was top of the league in explosive plays for quarterbacks. The
Yep.
guy pushes the ball downfield. He is not a game manager. I dispute that 100%. I think that he is the underrated quarterback in the league. He is the quarterback I want to build around at value in Dynasty, Superflex, and 2QB leagues. Do you agree with that position? I mean, given that we're already so high on 49ers and you and I talk all the time, I'm sort of setting you up for this. I kind of know where you stand on Purdy. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Very high on Brock Purdy. I mean, he's tied for 5 years to Kyle Shanahan, and that is really all I need to know. I think that whatever quarterback is in that system will produce, and a guy like Purdy will do so at an even greater level. Every year of his career, he's just been super productive with a yards per attempt above 8 every year.
Evan, the audience is saying that there's a bit of an echo coming from me, and you may want to turn down my volume in your headphones.
All right.
Well, so we're gonna see if that does anything to resolve this issue, and we'll go from there. It's very faint. I mean, I picked up on it a little bit. Not bad, not bad. But I mean, when you go live, these are the things that happen, and you have to troubleshoot on the fly. So, I'm scrolling down the rankings, and I'm like, whoa, we're that high on T. Higgins?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the perfect offense in the league, essentially, for fantasy. They're going to throw the ball a ton, and they're going to throw the ball very well. Their defense is still garbage, and they're just going to be behind in every game. And both receivers could finish in the top 5, realistically.
Yeah, I mean, on its surface, T. Higgins looks like he got there just with touchdowns. Like, oh, he had a lucky touchdown rate last year. He happened to be in the right situation at the right time, partial season. He also scored a lot of his fantasy points in the fantasy playoffs. So again, this is sort of a right place, right time for T. Higgins. But what we're saying is, like, well, yes, certainly things broke his way. He ran hot for sure, but he's still going right back to that situation. They didn't draft a receiver. They didn't upgrade any element of the offense except running back.
Yeah, and they didn't really upgrade their defense much either. They drafted Shamar Stewart, who's kind of a developmental player in the first round. So I'm not, and Trey Hendrickson might hold out as well. So this defense could actually get worse.
We have T. Higgins as the 19th overall player to select in best ball. That is real. And again, these are underdog rankings specifically, so they are weighted to wide receiver for sure. But still, I mean, still, man, that is cool. And we're also higher than consensus on Terry McLaurin. And so what I love seeing in our rankings, I love seeing the convergence of A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin. Because to me, what's the big difference? These are similar offenses. These are similar players. There's just there's more target competition actually in Philadelphia than there is in Washington.
Yeah, for me, it's not actually about target competition. I have no doubt that AJ is going to get his 28% target share. I actually have him projected for a significantly higher share than Terry McLaurin. For me, it just comes down to pass volume, where the Eagles are going to be by far the lowest in the league, while the Commanders are going to be more like middle of the pack, and they just run a ton of plays in general.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where we love A.J. Brown as a player, but
Yeah,
you can't draft him in the middle of the second round. That is a mistake. I mean, we would
yeah.
rather
I mean,
have Lad
it
McConkey.
could work, but if you're kind of hoping for a Saquon injury or a Devontae Smith injury, you'll need some things to break your way for that to work out.
I mean, you could take him a couple picks later, there's going to be drafts where he slips a few picks, and then you can at least get a little bit of exposure to him. I'm not saying be zero
Yeah.
exposed to AJ Brown, because if there is an injury, he could absolutely hurt you
Yeah.
if you're too underweight. But at ADP, you're going to want to be underweight for sure. Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's in a better situation. He's not necessarily an inferior talent. There's no target competition for him other than Brees Hall. And, you look at his ADP, it's already crept up to the very early third round. He is knocking on the second round now, an underdog too. So that's some value that has evaporated over the last month.
Yeah, he's kind of similar to AJ Brown in the way, because it's two extremely run heavy offenses, at least is how we project it. And both of them will see a high target share, but Garrett Wilson will see a higher one. More like 32%, 33%, while AJ is more like 28%, 29%. The reason why AJ is still ahead of Garrett Wilson is touchdowns. The offense is much better, but there is a good comparison there.
Yeah, there is. DJ Moore is interesting. We're quite a bit higher on DJ Moore than consensus. I just think this Chicago offense is teed up pretty well, teed up pretty nicely. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm all in on this Ben Johnson offense. They've reworked the offensive line and added multiple skill players that I like, but DJ Moore is still the best one there. So I'm going to bet on him.
Yeah, and Adunze has already been steamed up. Like, Adunze is riding that draft capital, that brand equity, going all the way back to college, where there's no room for value there. We're very high in this offense, higher than consensus on this offense, but in Dynasty, in best ball, in all formats, Adunze still has that cachet that it offers very little in terms of leverage. At ADP, you're going to just have to be like at ADP when you're drafting him. That's all you can do. You can't really reach for him because he's already going so high. You're putting yourself at a big disadvantage if you do that. So you're just going to have even weight on a guy like Adunze, be at like 8-9%, and that's it.
Yeah. Super in on him in Dynasty. Love him as a player, but it's a very crowded situation. And last year, he just didn't really produce. So I'm not, super high in best ball, but definitely willing to get that 8% or so.
So there's unwillingness to draft players that have struggled early in their career, are known as knuckleheads. Sometimes there's some value there. Players that I don't like, right? Like, I like Adunze, but I know a lot of people like Adunze. I don't like Jameson Williams. And a lot of people don't like Jameson Williams. But in fantasy football, especially best ball, where players can go nuclear any given week, right? Like the Flex 4 game on Fast Draft. The top 4 players enter your lineup every week. So there's going to be plenty of weeks where Jameson Williams never enters your lineup, and that's fine. But the weeks he does are going to be spike weeks. Like, this is a spike week specialist. So if I have the opportunity to draft Jameson Williams or, say, Calvin Ridley or Cortland Sutton, yes, Sutton and Ridley give you that consistency. But in best ball, like if I'm setting my lineup, if I'm drafting at the FFPC in the main event, I want Sutton, I want Ridley. I want to be able to set my lineup and get production. In best ball, I'm going Jameson Williams, man.
Yeah. I love Sutton and Ridley as floor plays. I'm above consensus on them. I like them a lot. But in underdog, I think you need to swing for the ceiling of Jameson Williams. Last year, he was the wide receiver 24 in points per game. The metrics, they weren't amazing. I'm not going to tell you they were amazing. But at the end of the day, this is a really explosive offense. Yes, they lost Ben Johnson, but I think they're going to be just fine. They're still going to be top of the league in points or close to it. So I'm just not that worried about the offense, and I want pieces of it.
Yeah, and what I like about the FFPC is they have both best ball contests and they have these high stakes, traditional, season long tournaments. So
Hmm.
let's hear a little bit more about the FFPC. Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and Dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD. Go get it! Okay, in this area of the best ball rankings, I'm seeing a player named Marvin Harrison, and he generally goes earlier. Why?
Much earlier. Much earlier. He's going early third round right now.
Woo!
Despite last year he was the wide receiver 39 in points per game. He was 37th in target share, 50th in target rate, 66th in target quality, and 58th in yards per out run. The air yards were pretty good, yes, but the way that they used him in that offense, they used him like he was Mike Williams or something, just contested catches on the outside, which is not his game whatsoever. This offseason, nothing has changed in Arizona. Same coaching staff, same personnel across the board on the offense. So I really don't understand the ADP whatsoever, and I have him much lower.
It's the brand. It's the name. We talked about this with it's a Dunze on steroids.
Yeah.
Like imagine a Dunze times 2 in terms of just the affinity for a prolific wide receiver that the NFL tagged as a stud, an alpha. Like NFL scouts said this guy's an alpha, and fantasy gamers are just blindly drafting him super high. I mean, I'm always in a position of trying to be a contrarian, be like, hey, yeah, I'll start dabbling on some Marvin Harrison. Sure, why not? And then I look up at his best ball ADP. I'm like, oh, God, what? No, I thought, but I was wrong. I thought I could get some value, and I'm like, no. It's interesting. The ADP on Underdog is certainly higher on him than, say, Flex 4. The Flex 4 game on Fast Draft, much more heavily weighted towards running backs. I mean, they were running back heavy teams that won last year because you're drafting any 6 guys, any running back, any wide receiver, any tight end. You can draft six of any position, right? So you see in that format, if we look at the ADP, Marvin Harrison goes much later, right? Marvin Harrison's going at like pick 45. Now he's up. He's certainly moving up. So he's in that Devontae Adams, Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice zone, which is fascinating. Who would you rather have, Rashee Rice or Marvin Harrison?
Oh, that's just ridiculous. Give me Rashee Rice a million times out of 10.
Right? I mean, it's looking less and less likely that Rice gets suspended. So this is a nice little flag plant for us. We love the offense. We'd much rather have Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback than Kyler Murray. And you could argue that even Trey McBride is going to outproduce Travis Kelce. So I just
No doubt. I mean, it's not an argument. It's just going to
mean,
happen.
It's going to happen. And Rice is that queen chess piece player that they're moving all around the formation to get him slot snaps, to get him on the outside, to get him the right matchup where they're just parking Marvin Harrison on the outside. He's absorbing alpha corners, running high degree of difficulty routes that Rashee Rice is not. So life is easy if you're Rashee Rice. Life is difficult if you're Marvin Harrison because the targets are also not as accurate either.
Right.
And then you look up and their best ball ADPs are flipped. Right, Harrison is going quite a bit earlier in best ball than Rice. This is one of those. This just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think that one will flip as we go throughout the off season here, just as people see that Rashee Rice isn't going to get suspended, and also he did not tear his ACL. He tore some other ligaments in his knee, but not the ACL. I'm very high on Rashee Rice this year. I want all the exposure that I can get.
What about Rice versus Worthy?
I think it's Rice by a million. Last year they did put Xavier Worthy in the Rashee Rice role towards the end of the season, which was
Mm-hmm.
good for his production. But I don't think that they're going to keep doing that once Rashee Rice is back in the fold here. There is still some upside for Worthy
Yeah,
because Mahomes missed him on every deep ball last year. It was just insane because we came to know Mahomes as this deep ball aficionado. And last year they couldn't connect hardly ever. So there is still some upside, but Rashee Rice is going to get way more targets.
yeah. Rice. We're talking about 95th percentile burst score, huge catch radius, 6 foot 200. Just he looks like the prototypical NFL volume receiver, right? I mean, and putting up 1,000 yards, close to 1,000 yards as a rookie, and then 16.2 fantasy points per game in just a handful of games last year. The trajectory is just exactly what you're looking for. The injury happened early on in the season, so he should be 100%. It's all systems go. Rashee Rice is all systems go. That's a great place if you want a flag plant. I think that's one of the better flag plant receivers where he's going at what, slot 30, let's say. You can get him around slot 30.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you're drafting in the early third round, you just grab him every time. Every time.
Also, that 16 points per game you mentioned from last year, that takes into account the game where he got hurt in the first quarter. If you don't take that one into account,
Ooh,
it's over 20 points per game.
that's right.
That's
See?
what the usage actually looked like.
That's right. That is right. That is right. That is right. I love that we're very high on Chris Olave. Chris Olave
Yep.
seems like a no-brainer to me. What am I missing?
Well, I think all of the risk in his ADP is the concussions. He has had 5 in the last 5 years, 2 last year, which is very scary. But I don't want to play the who gets a concussion game. I'd much rather just say this guy is going to get 30% target share. And yeah, the offense isn't great, but a 30% target share is a great pick in the 5th, 6th round.
What do you think of stacking Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Purdy? What do you think of that?
Well, I definitely love the Jennings Purdy piece. I
Yeah.
have personally been trying to figure out Ayuk versus Pearsall recently. I'm very confident that Jennings will produce,
Yes, I think
but
Jennings is the
Ayuk
starting
versus
point.
Pearsall.
If
Yeah.
there's a receiver on San Francisco that you could just set your watch by, you know you're going to get production. He plays on the outside. You know you're going to get touchdowns. There's going to be some spike weeks. There's going to be some air, but there's going to be some spike weeks as well for Jennings. He's probably going to play. He's fundamentally sound. He's a great blocker. There's just not a lot of risk there, but the spike
Hmm.
weeks are there. So to me, that's a guy that you can just be drafting, be well overweight on, where you have him on Purdy teams and non-Purdy teams.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree with that.
What about Ayuk though? Like, where have you come down on Ayuk? What have you decided?
I think that I'm going to make the bet on Ayuk over Pearsall just because we have seen Ayuk's talent in the NFL. One of the best route runners when healthy, and I think that will get him on the field over Pearsall more often than not. The Niners have in the past ran a lot of 12 personnel, 21 personnel. So I think you really only want two receivers there probably, and I think Ayuk is the guy over Pearsall.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're as high or as high versus consensus on Ayuk as we are low versus consensus on Pearsall. In fact, Pearsall is really the only guy that we are lower than consensus on in this San Francisco offense at all.
Yeah. Yeah, there has to be one guy you bet against. Not everybody is going to hit.
We're at least 10 spots ahead of consensus with one Josh Downs. Joshua Downs. Why not?
Well, he is one of my personal favorite players in the league. I think that he can kind of do everything. Last year, he was earning targets. He was earning targets downfield. And, there was one pretty big problem holding him back, being his quarterback. But our take this year is that that quarterback will not play more than half the season.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. Once you've decided that Anthony Richardson's only playing 8 or 9 games, it's a lot easier to go with Downs. Downs produced 13 fantasy points per game last year, which was 5 more than Ricky Pearsall. Okay. He's going 20 spots later than Pearsall on underdog. This makes no sense. And what's cool is when you play on Fast Draft, you can see that Pearsall has a sub 100% ownership. Like there's certainly drafts that happen and there's no Pearsall. Plenty of drafts happen and there's no Josh Downs, right? So when you're deciding on who you're going to draft, you could go Jawan Jennings or Pearsall. The thing is, because Pearsall has that extra athleticism, Pearsall has actually been drafted in more fast drafts in the Flex 4 game than Jennings, which is interesting. Right? And then Ayuk, he's only been drafted in 3.2% of drafts. So if there is someone in there that we've talked about, Josh Downs, 0.9% of drafts. Right? So what are you betting on? You're betting on that Ayuk is healthy. All right, if you're betting that Ayuk plays well, that he's healthy, then there you're getting a huge edge on the field. But there's no health concerns with Josh Downs. So that's a nice little bet too. Like, what if Anthony Richardson is a complete and total disaster? What if Anthony Richardson shows up and he's benched week 2? And it has nothing to do with the coaches. They want him. They want to keep giving him chances. But his teammates are just like, enough. There's a meeting. There's a locker room meeting, closed door meeting, or the team captains go to the coaches and they're like, listen, we can't do this. We've all broken our bodies to be here. We're not doing this. You got to make a change. Right? Put Daniel out there. So if I told you that there's a world where Daniel Jones plays 15 games, where would you take Josh Downs in best ball? And if you had drafted Josh Downs in the 6th round, the Flex 4 game, you just need 10 or more games from Daniel Jones, and you're printing money.
Yeah, totally. Right now he's going at the 8-9 turn on underdog. If we knew that Daniel Jones was starting 15 games, I would probably be willing to take him at like the 6-7 turn.
Yeah.
So like 2 rounds ahead.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is a horrible deep ball thrower, but that is actually to Josh Downs' benefit in some ways because he's just going to check it down to one of the better slot receivers in the NFL.
It would be cool if Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson could both play at the same time. Right? And and then, almost like a video game where at the if you're going to throw it short, you swap in Daniel Jones instantly. He teleports in and he throws the short pass. And then if it's going to be a deep ball, then Anthony Richardson just lets it go. Right? Yeah. So if they could combine these two guys and play them simultaneously, depending on what throw that needs to be made, I mean, this Colts offense could be super dynamic.
Yeah, why haven't they done this yet?
Well, it's not based on, the rules of anatomy and physics. It's not possible,
Hmm,
but it would be
dang.
nice. It would be nice. And by the way, on Fast Draft, use code PODFATHER, $50 deposit match with code PODFATHER on Fast Draft, and you can get in this. The Flex 4 game is rocking. It's almost half full at this point. $50,000 prize pool, $10,000 to first. These drafts take 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. They're super fast. They're super fun. They're ripping at a much faster rate as the days and weeks go along as we get closer to the season. So, highly recommend it. There's still an echo. I'm hearing from Chris that there is still an echo. I don't hear it in my headset, and we've heard that it's been resolved in the chat. So maybe Chris was listening at the beginning of the show, and so we just want to make sure we get this right. Certainly, the less work it is for me to clean up the podcast as well, that's always good. But Jamie is saying no echo, and we're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that. And again, the all the beauty of live radio and live streaming. Here it is. Whew. Okay. Here, Jack in the chat. Let's remember the leap Saquon took. He was not on the Giants, right? Not saying Jones is even close to that level of talent, but it is hard to expect that he doesn't just look somewhat better. And that's a great point, right?
Yeah,
That's a
it's a
great point.
better
We've only
situation.
really seen Daniel Jones as a Giant. And now we get to see him with the best receivers he's had. I mean, certainly he didn't have Malik Neighbors this year, right? He had Malik Neighbors for a portion of the year last year, so that was the best receiver he's ever played with. And then there was a huge drop to Wan'Dale Robinson and others. This is going to be the deepest wide receiver core he's ever played with in Indianapolis, and that will be interesting. He's also going to be playing with Jonathan Taylor, right? So he's going to have a lot of the benefits of a great running back that he's accustomed to, but he's never had this depth of talent. He's been throwing to Darius Slayton and what Jalen Hyatt. It's been pretty pathetic what Daniel Jones has had to work with. So I'm excited to see what Daniel Jones is. Can you draft Daniel Jones on Underdog? You can't.
Probably not. I mean, you can. I wouldn't go crazy with it because if he doesn't play, then you just lit that draft on fire probably. Right now his ADP is 214, so he is getting drafted sometimes. Um, I would support that. I would support drafting Daniel Jones a couple times.
So if you have a fringe roster where you're close to needing a third quarterback, it's a coin flip. Some rosters you don't have a lot of equity in the quarterback position, but you're not so thin that you definitely need a third quarterback. So if you're on the edge of deciding, it would be nice to have a third quarterback, but only if the price is right, then I can see Daniel Jones last round pick.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I like it. Man. We're also, pretty high on. Let's see, Bashal Tootin. Let's start talking about some running backs. Running backs for best ball. The one that jumps out at me first and foremost is Tootin. My goodness. We
Mm-hmm.
are 20 spots ahead of consensus. We have him inside the top 100.
Yep. Yes, we do. I mean, we'll start with the workout at the combine where he was 98th percentile speed score and 97th percentile burst score. So just incredible athleticism. And he goes in the very early fourth round to the Jags. Liam Cohen designed a beautiful running game last year with Bucky Irving and Rashad White. And hopefully he can do the same thing this year. I don't think that Cohen loves Travis Etienne. That's not a very hot take. Nobody really loves Travis Etienne. He's just fine. Tootin is the upside swing there. He's got the juice. The one issue is that he fumbled quite a bit in college. And we got a report, I believe, yesterday that he fumbled at practice. So we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the offseason. But the upside swing in this offense is Bashal Tootin.
Hate these fumbles, man. Hate them
Yeah.
just because you know that's what these coaches overvalue ball security. You hate it. You hate it. You hate it. You hate it. Now, the 49ers, that surprised people with how late they drafted a running back. They waited and waited and waited. They had all these picks. They had traded Jordan Mason. And so the thought was that they would be going running back pretty early. Not too early, but earlier than the biggest, most hardcore Christian McCaffrey fans would be comfortable with. And then that's not what happened. And that's partly why you see in Christian McCaffrey creep up in the ADP. But also Isaac Garendo. So we are also 20 spots ahead on Garendo.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yep. I mean, we saw the insane juice last year, similar to Tootin, 100th percentile speed score, 98th percentile burst score. And last year, we saw how explosive he looked in that offense when CMC went down and Jordan Mason went down. Now he's the clear RB2 there, and CMC is coming back off of a torn Achilles. So I want to be walking away from, say, 20 to 30% of my drafts with at least one 49ers running back. I think that's a great strategy this year.
And fading the Seattle Seahawks running backs.
Yeah, I love Kenneth Walker. He's a very good player, and he's probably going to get some good volume this year. Last year, he actually earned significant targets, but I am low on that offense in general, and especially that offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, we're like 20 spots below consensus on Zach Charbonnet. The fact that Charbonnet goes ahead of Garendo makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense.
I mean, that is like probably the most nonsensical like ADP dichotomy you can find. It's like there's no upside for Zach Charbonnet. Even now, when Walker misses games with
Sure.
the next groin injury, it's not going to be bell cow Charbonnet anymore. Those days are over.
Yeah. I mean, I do think Martinez will play a role there. Damian Martinez,
Yes, of
7th round
course.
pick.
They drafted him.
Yeah.
They drafted Damian Martinez fell because he's not very active in the passing game, and NFL teams are getting better and better at putting a premium on pass-catching running backs. But Damian Martinez, he's going to show out in camp, and he's going to earn a role. And if you're going to be handing the ball off, you're going to be like, hey, let's hand it off to Damian Martinez here. Let's give him a couple drives. You can see them rotating drives in the absence of Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that including Kenneth Walker, Damian Martinez is the best short yardage back that they have, and potentially just the best in between the tackles runner in general.
It's going to be very interesting. So there's really not a lot of room for Zach Charbonnet because he's not great at anything. It's not like Zach Charbonnet is this dynamic pass catcher. He's just very good at all things being a running back, but that's actually not good enough on that offense given the other running back skill sets that you're surrounded by.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's got a great skill set for a perfect situation, but he is far from the perfect situation right now.
We're also very high on Jaden Blue. So Jaden Blue, that ADP is going to correct. I mean, some of these guys, you have to imagine, some of these rookies, they're going to pop. They're definitely going to pop. Like as camp goes along, he's going to be is there a better candidate to be a camp popper than Jaden Blue?
Not that comes to the top of my mind. I think he will certainly rise in ADP throughout the summer. No doubt about that. We were never super high on Blue as a pure prospect. He is a very good receiver, and he ran a 4.43 at the combine. So there are some things that you like there for sure. The weight at 196 pounds isn't great, but it can be overcame. But the bottom line is that the situation is better than most other rookie running backs this year, and just Javonte Williams in front of him.
Why are we higher on Pacheco? I mean, are we that scared of Brashard Smith?
I am low on Pacheco because he was god awful last year from every metric you look at. He was just horrible. And you can try to blame that on the injury. You know, I hope that it was the injury, but when he came back, he was just awful. And Kareem Hunt was just better than him. And we know that Kareem Hunt is not good at this point of his career.
There's not a lot to talk about with quarterback, but I was surprised to see how high we are on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm fine with it. I couldn't be more fine with it.
Absolutely. I mean, best weapons he's ever had by far, best play caller he's ever had by far. So I think that this is the year he finally breaks out. Last year, their O line was second best in pressure rate allowed, and Lawrence was actually seventh in deep ball accuracy. So I think they should be able to chuck it downfield and have a lot of big plays.
What is the case for the Buccaneers? I see a team that totally peaked in the second half last year, set a standard and an ADP trajectory that almost none of their players can live up to.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, Mike Evans last year had his highest points per game since 2019. Chris Godwin was the wide receiver two. If you extend it over a full season, there's no way that either of those continues. I just think that the offense is doomed to regress this year. Baker Mayfield threw for over 40 touchdowns last year. That's not going to happen again.
I mean, what? It's interesting how just some players, they could flash in a season or half a season
Yeah.
and just wipe the memory of them. Like a 5-year, 10-year career can just be wiped. No. This player's elite. That 6-game sample is what you need to focus on. When they played the Saints and the Panthers and a demoralized Cowboys team and just running over with the weakest schedule in the league. Come on, man. I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So again, I'm not drafting Bucky Irving, okay? And yet Bucky Irving goes 8 spots ahead of Chase Brown. What is that?
Yeah. I don't. People love Bucky Irving. We never really have at Player Profiler. We've always been low on him, and he was great last year. He was. I expect him to get volume this year too. I just don't think he's special as a running back, and I don't think the offense is going to be all that great again. So give me the guy who is on the best fantasy offense in the NFL and sees a massive share of his team's backfield.
Yeah, I mean, we have a breakout running back in Chase Brown, another breakout running back in Bucky Irving. But Bucky Irving has a quality pass catcher that he's competing for touches with. And we know that the team likes Sean Tucker. All Cincinnati did was they drafted a running back very late. Again, Taj Brooks is one of my favorites. He is the sleeper rookie running back. I mean, in every draft, unless it's Flex 4 where you can only draft 6 guys, but if it's the Origins draft on Fast Draft, the all-rookie game, if we're drafting late in any of these best ball contests, FFPC best ball, I mean, come on, man. Taj Brooks is an easy, especially with like an FFPC format. If you're just doing like the high stakes tournament, and you're able to set your lineup. Well, you draft Taj Brooks not knowing what the touch distribution is going to be, and if they suddenly surprise you and they're like, "Oh my God, you're getting 30% of the touches among the running backs in week 1," that's only going to keep ticking up and up and up if you're Taj Brooks. My God, man, like. That is the player. That is the player in FFPC leagues or any leagues where you're able to set your lineup and make ad drops where it's like, okay, like I'm just going to see how this plays out. I want to see what happens with Taj Brooks. And if there's
he's an
one
amazing
team
handcuff.
also, I guess we talked about this offline. If there's a team that can support two receivers to produce at an elite level, we know it's Cincinnati. Just look at the ADPs. Well, if you're not generally handcuffing, I'm not. I'm not handcuffing in seasonal leagues, managed leagues. Get out of here. The Players Championship, the FFPC. No, thank you. Right? I'm not handcuffing. That's the one situation. If I have Chase Brown, you better be damn sure I'm going to be drafting Taj Brooks because there is a possibility that both of these guys can produce. There's so many points that get scored in Cincinnati. It's not a traditional handcuff. Taj Brooks is not a traditional. You're drafting Taj Brooks because, oh my, he's a guy I might be able to flex starting in week 2.
I think we should relax on that one. I mean, he was a 6th-round pick. I love him. Don't get me wrong. Been taking him in plenty of rookie drafts, but I don't think he's earning a 30% opportunity share by week 2. I think you would be lucky to do that with Chase Brown healthy at any point this season, to be honest. I see him as more of a handcuff, a very, very good handcuff, by the way.
Well, okay, so we know that Burrow doesn't run much. So of the rush attempts,
right?
Okay, opportunity share includes running back targets.
Mm-hmm.
So of all the running back opportunities, targets, and carries, if Chase Brown gets 60%, you're very happy with that. In the context of that offense, that's a smash.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say it's 55%. And Taj Brooks is getting Braylon Allen level usage. But he's getting Braylon Allen level usage in the context of the Bengals offense, not the Jets offense. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. One question for you. Do you have any concern that last year the Bengals' lead running back at the start of the season was Zach Moss, and he's still on the roster? Do you have any concern that maybe he's actually the RB2 there and not Taj Brooks?
Yes. My whole case around Taj Brooks is that one of Zach Moss or Samaje Perine gets cut.
Yeah.
It could be Zach Moss. I hope it's Zach Moss.
Could
because
be. Yeah.
Perine has special teams ability and skills. Zach Moss does not. So if I'm sitting down and I'm deciding, okay, we have to keep one of these two guys, they performed at pretty equal level in the context of the offense, but Perine has more special teams ability. We're going to go ahead and keep Perine on the active roster because of that. But also, he is going to command less carries.
Yeah.
So then we're talking about Perine getting, a 15% share, Brooks getting a 30% share, and Brown getting the rest, getting 55%. That is very possible. Now, that's a lot for Brooks, but that's mostly carries, right? So the weighted opportunities would skew more towards Chase Brown because it'd be more target rich. Whereas if Taj Brooks is Braylon Allen, then these are mostly carries, right? And even on the Bengals, if you're getting a carry from the 40-yard line, it's not that valuable. Right. So I mean, I get it. It's he would not be someone that you're starting happily early in the season.
Yeah.
But you can look up and see 10 fantasy points and be like, well, this guy's useful. That's very possible. So it's just hard for me to imagine, especially a guy like Taj Brooks, where they got such incredible value on him. I mean, we're talking about multiple 1,500-yard seasons in college. We're talking about 3 straight 25-catch seasons in college. And this is at Texas Tech. This isn't like a tiny school. So this, to me, this screams he is going to start as the third running back. But potentially, if they keep Perine, he could actually start out as the number 2.
Yeah, I agree
Pirine
with
is an
that.
interesting case. The fact that they added Pirine makes it harder for Zach Moss to make the team.
For sure. And I think P. Ryan has a lot of chemistry with Burrow already from a pass protection, check down standpoint. So Burrow would probably prefer to keep P. Ryan over Moss as well.
Yeah, Pirine's also better in the passing game for that reason. So it's
Yeah.
just, if I put myself in the shoes of a GM and I'm trying to, do final cuts, now that I have Brooks on the roster and I have Pirine, what is the case for keeping Zach Moss? I mean, I think it's a pretty thin case. So I'm not worried about him. And I can't really get that worried about Pirine.
No, no.
No, you just
P. Ryan's
can't. So I
not a
think
concern.
that is the case. We're also very high, by the way. We have to if we're talking rookies, we have to mention that we are very high on a Marion Hampton.
True. Yep. I expect them to just run the hell out of the ball this year. And they have upgraded their offensive line. Uh, just the past 5 years, they have just continued to add and add and add to that O line. And now I believe it's fully coming together at the perfect time with Hampton walking in, Greg Roman calling plays. He is just going to smash this year. And he's way better than Najee Harris. Not worried about Najee at all.
How is it that the public cannot seem to get behind Aaron Jones, even though he's a lightly used race car? Like this is like 2 years in a row. We're like 10 spots ahead on Aaron Jones. It's weird.
Yeah, I think everyone's just kind of expecting him to miss games, although he has played 17 games 2 of the last 3 seasons. And he's been RB3, RB4, RB11, RB11, and then top 20 last year. So, and in that offense, he is certainly going to have some valuable touches. I wouldn't be shocked if Jordan Mason took the goal line, but Aaron Jones is going to be the one earning targets, which is very valuable, of course, for fantasy.
Aaron Jones' yards per carry has never dipped below 4.5.
It's very impressive.
I mean, come on now, man. Come on. I mean, since 2019, he's never had less than 30 catches. And that was only because in 2023 he only played in 11 games.
Yeah.
Right? So
And
he's
last
played in
year,
11 or more games every single year. And the vast majority of his seasons that he's played in, he's played in 14 or more games. 14 in 2020, 15 in 2021, 16 in 2019, and 17 games played in 2022 and 2024. So he's actually playing more full seasons later in his career than he did early in his career. Like this is a known principle that as humans, even outside our species, as the work rate goes up, you reach your peak level of durability years into your career. We're talking about, this is true for horses, this is true for humans, this is true for a bunch of different animals. Where it's just you the way muscle mass is and the skeletal structure, you build that endurance over time, and then your body is perfectly tuned to withstand whether it's a big workload, whether you're pulling things, whether you're absorbing contact, whatever it is. It's like a physiological principle.
Yeah, sure.
We'll call it the Frank Gore corollary. Frank Gore,
Yeah.
as he aged, became more and more and more durable. No, it's not the dumbest take. There's a whole principle about this. Jeffrey Tanner says this is the dumbest take I've ever heard in my life. No, this is actually a physiological principle, and I have named it the Frank Gore corollary, and you can pound sand.
All right. Anyways, Aaron Jones was 6th in weighted opportunities last year. That's pretty great. He only scored touchdowns at a 2.3% rate, which should regress positively. So yeah, even more reason to draft him this year. Great offense, ton of opportunity, and should get a little bit luckier with touchdowns.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Brian Robinson. Why not?
Yeah, It's the Alfred Morris corollary in Washington. Just run it back again. They didn't add anybody of consequence. I do like Ja'Cory Krosky Marriott that they added in the 7th round, but no running back was added of consequence. And Brian Robinson is just in the perfect fantasy offense, well, the second best fantasy offense in football behind Cincinnati. We
Right.
expect the Commanders to score a ton of points, run the second most plays in the NFL, and just crush for fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's safe to say. And we're just kind of at consensus with DeAndre Swift. Like I thought we would be below consensus given where we had him. We have DeAndre Swift all the way down at like player 81 behind players like Brian Robinson. But his brand has finally been tarnished enough where people just don't want him.
Yeah, yeah, and I still, I like him at ADP. He's a pretty good pick right now. But I don't mean to get you going this early in the day, but one of my favorite picks the past week that I've really been noticing is Roshan Johnson. I think this is
No.
his year.
Yeah, why
I think
not,
it's his
man?
year.
Where's he going?
It's just DeAndre Swift in front of him. Are you really that worried about that? I'm not. He's going 170th overall on underdog. And he's the RB2 in a Ben Johnson offense. Why can't he be the David Montgomery guy who scores 12 plus touchdowns this year?
Yeah, just look at the overall offense. How many points do we think are going to be scored? What do we think? What do we think the prolificness of this offense looks like? Where is the running back room being drafted in aggregate? Right? What is the aggregate ADP for Bears running backs? And it's super suppressed because there's this assumption that Nick Chubb's going to go there, someone's going to go there, right? But why? Just because Nick Chubb was linked there a couple weeks ago and then that fizzled, because it fizzled, he's now less likely to go there. And
Yeah,
they don't need a running back. They have Roshan. They love Roshan Johnson as the
yep.
the 1B running back. They like that he has the size. They like that he has the ball security, that he has been an efficient receiver when called upon. So there's actually not a huge hurry, huge demand to upgrade running back in Chicago.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I am not scared of Nick Chubb really whatsoever. He was just bad last year. So I don't think he's really going to play much of a role wherever he goes, which is sad to see because obviously we all love watching Nick Chubb. But yeah, this is Roshan's year for sure. He is the David Montgomery for Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it just like there was an assumption that the Bears were all in on running back. They were linked to
Hmm.
Caleb Johnson more than anyone else in mock drafts. And then it just didn't happen. And then they waited
And
until
his
the
ADP
seventh
hasn't
round.
budged.
Yeah. They waited to the seventh round to take Kyle Monangai, and Roshan's ADP never corrected.
Yeah.
Like this is what being a truther is all about, right? Being a truther is hard. It's hard because you have to celebrate players and get behind players and be super overweight on players when they're not popular, when their ADPs are at 170, and you have to pound the table and go, no, this is a very good player. His ADP is nonsense, and it is probably the least efficient ADP on the board because all the assumptions that were baked in never happened, right? They were all. I still can't believe the Bears didn't draft a running back in the first 100 picks. I still can't believe they didn't do it, but they didn't
Yeah.
because we all know and they know that DeAndre Swift doesn't really want to be a football player, and so it would make sense that they would upgrade that position. But no, they said no. They said we're fine with DeAndre Swift. We paid him, more money than we should have, so now we're stuck with him. And we did draft this guy, the team captain from Texas, though Bijan was there at the time, who had one of the better days in the history of all running backs at the Senior Bowl and has only impressed us as an NFL running back. And why not? I mean, the guy has had the worst luck. The worst luck. He's teed up to take over the starting role, and he gets concussed, and it turns out to be a major concussion, which cost him like 4 weeks. which happened to
Hmm.
align exactly with the time that the opportunity window was open. It
Yeah.
was just heartbreaking, man. You feel he's been snake bitten, and so when you're looking at this player's production has not been muted because he's inefficient. It's just been bad luck. But because he hasn't produced, he's a punchline. And you get
Hmm.
mocked if you hype Roschon Johnson too much. It's just very easy to poke fun at those people. It's like, yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, good luck. Late round pick, fourth round pick, hasn't done anything for 2 years. It's over. Give up on it. No, we're not giving up. There's actually no reason to give up. In fact, if you're so obsessed with what NFL teams think and scouts think, if they love Marvin Harrison, then we're all in on Marvin Harrison this year, even if he played bad. Well, the Bears clearly, from their actions and the fact that they're not signing Nick Chubb, really like Roschon Johnson.
Yeah.
Right?
Clearly, they were comfortable with their running back room, and that tells
Same
you a lot
same
about
guys that
Roshan.
drafted Odunze. And again,
Yeah.
Odunze didn't produce last year, and you're steaming him up anyway because the
Yep.
Bears loved him last year. The Bears also like Roschon Johnson. I'm telling you, you don't have to draft him because I like him or Evan likes him or the roster watch guys like him. You can draft him because the Bears like him.
Hmm. Much improved O line, much improved offense in general. He's just going to score touchdowns. Hate to break it to you.
He's going to catch passes too, man.
Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah. I mean, let's go. Are there any other like late running backs, maybe for dynasty rookie drafts that you're interested in?
Oh,
Ja'Cory
there's so
Krosky
many.
Merritt, that level of deep running back, as we're talking about like Monangai. Like Monangai is interesting because he's on the Bears and
I like Mononga.
Monangai's in line to be the third running back. I mean, there's not a lot of seventh
Hmm.
round running backs that you have a clear path to seize the number 3 job and be active on game days in week 1. That's a big deal. Monangai could absolutely do that. Is there anyone else that you want to talk about? We've talked about Taj Brooks.
Yeah, I'd say the super sleeper guys, the two are Krosky Merritt and Manon Guy. But I want to be clear that I am in on basically every running back this year in rookie drafts. Once you get to like the third, fourth round, you're just going to see me drafting only running backs from then on. DJ Giddens, Brashard Smith, Ollie Gordon. I want all of them.
34 catches in 2023 for Roschon Johnson. 209 receiving yards. He didn't do anything, man. He didn't do anything.
People are going to point to that yards per carry from last year that was very bad, but it needs some context
What,
because
55
they were
attempts? Who
mostly
cares?
they were mostly using him in a short yardage role, and this was the same team that was running. Uh, they didn't have an interior O line, and they had Shane Waldron calling plays, and they would just run the ball to Roschon 4 times in a row in the end zone, and he would lose 10 yards because they didn't have an O line. So just needs a little bit of context there. I'm not really worried about his efficiency.
The year prior, where he had a much bigger sample,
Hmm.
okay, his yards per touch was 4.9, number 20 among NFL running backs. And his yards created per touch was 3.48, which was number 24 among NFL running backs. And his catch rate out of the backfield was 85%, number 6 in the league among NFL running backs. Thank you very much. I mean, you should root against Roschon just because I'm going to be so insufferable when he breaks out. Like that's the real thing. That's what you should be. No one should want Roschon to do well because I'm going to make everyone miserable. You're just going to have to tune me out. What about tight end? What are we doing with tight end? I know you love Njoku.
I love Njoku. I've been working all week or the past couple weeks on my early seasonal projections, and currently I have Njoku coming out as the tight end 4 in those projections while he's being drafted around tight end 10. The Browns are the pass heaviest team in the NFL for the last 2 years. And while their quarterbacks do suck, no doubt about that, uh, the one constant in that offense is David Njoku getting underneath targets. And that's just going to continue to happen this year. And he's going to rack up a ton of targets and a ton of receptions. So, therefore, a lot of fantasy points.
Cedric Tillman. Yes?
I like Tillman.
Yeah, isn't that where you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're looking. That's the move, right? Cedric, if you're going to draft a Browns player in best ball, it should either be Njoku or Cedric Tillman.
Yeah. I like Tillman. I am a little bit concerned that the quarterback play will just hamper those deep attempts to Tillman. A couple of years ago, it did work well with Flacco. He was chucking it deep and it was working, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. And, their backups are Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, none of whom are known for their deep ball. So I will say that I have some concern for Tillman, but man, he is the wide receiver 2 there, and it's just Jerry Jeudy in front of him. So who really cares about that?
You don't really care about Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy broke out. Jerry Jeudy now has hype, man.
Yeah.
You can't say that about Jerry Jeudy. Let's see.
Oh,
I want to see where we have
I?
Jerry Jeudy in our wide receiver rankings. Let's see. Jerry Jeudy, best ball wide receivers on Player Profilers, best ball rankings. I'm scrolling. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Yes, we have here. Let's share this on the screen. We have Jerry Jeudy behind Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir, Jordan Addison, Rome Odunze, Brandon Ayuk. Whoa, dude. We're very low on Jerry Jeudy. It's almost like he's in a really bad offense. But you just said that they pass a lot.
They do. They do pass a lot. If you look at it on a per route basis, Jerry Jeudy was 61st in target rate last year and 54th in yards per route run, which is pretty incredible for somebody who ended up finishing like top 10 in yards, 36th in target share too. So that's not really helping him much either. He was just he really just produced because he was with Jameis Winston, and everybody's going to produce with Jameis Winston.
That's a great point. He doesn't have Jameis Winston anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That is the thing. And you might say, well, Cedric Tillman doesn't either, but Cedric Tillman's not expensive.
Right.
Cedric Tillman is the late round flyer. He's the late round sleeper. Jerry Jeudy's not a sleeper. He's going inside the top 70. Inside the top 70 players on Underdog. That's a little wild for me. That's crazy.
It is wild. And Tillman's going 155 overall.
Judy's going player 68 on Fast Draft, so same spot. He's 26% owned. Okay? And this is pretty crazy, okay? He's 10% more owned than Jawan Jennings, who has a higher ceiling and a higher floor.
Correct.
We agree, right? He also has a 0.8% higher ownership in the Flex 4 game than Brian Robinson. Which, what?
Come on, guys. That's ridiculous.
What's happening? There's a lot of Jerry Jeudy drafters out there. You only can draft 6 guys, and you're chasing upside in the Flex 4 tournament on Fast Draft. Promo code is Podfather for a $50 deposit match. And you're pushing the button on Jerry Jeudy?
It's disgusting.
I don't like that at all. I think
no.
All else equal, I would rather have just a running back. Just Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson. Give me a running back, right?
Yeah, a running back in a good offense. Yeah, give me that.
Maybe RJ Harvey slips there. Probably not. RJ Harvey probably more of a 5th-round pick now with his ADP moving up. But, yeah, I'm trying to get Travion Henderson. I'm trying to get R.J. Harvey. I'm trying to get Tyrone Tracy even. Brian Robinson. These are the players I would rather have in the 6th round. And if I'm gonna go receiver, I think that I would rather have a receiver that has maximum upside, and that means put this player in a position to be the clear alpha and just be a super efficient playmaker. Chris Olave has that season with 1,800 air yards. Like, knowing that's in his range of outcomes, if things break his way and Tyler Shuck is good, or, okay, he's not going to be good. If Tyler Shuck is just good enough, right? If he is functional, right? If Tyler Shuck can run the offense in any kind of reasonable way, then Chris Olave is a smash just because you had the talent. So the talent with Chris Olave is, I think, the play at wide receiver in round 6 on Fast Draft. And then if you want the situation, I think it's Jennings. Jennings is the situation that you're betting on. The difference is the Jennings ownership is only 15.7%. Olave's is 37.3%. So I think you're getting more leverage with Jennings if he hits in a big way. Than you are with Olave. But again, those are both great options if you decide you're not going to go running back. But again, because 5 out of the 6 players that were drafted by most winning teams in 2024, because they were running backs, probably want to go running back, because the data that we have so far on this contest says you're going to want to go running back, all else equal.
Yep. There's plenty of great 6th-round picks out there. DeAndre Swift, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, Cortland Sutton. Maybe not the biggest upside guys, but these guys are going to beat this ADP, I can guarantee you. And then you got some more upside swings with Jawan Jennings, Brian Robinson, Chris Olave. So it's just a beautiful time in your Flex 4 drafts, and especially if you're not taking Jerry Jeudy.
What about Matthew Golden? Matthew Golden in Dynasty, Matthew Golden in Best Ball. We are behind consensus in Best Ball on Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden looks like a great rookie option, a great rookie year option for Best Ball. But isn't the concern more the Packers offense?
Yes, it is. Second half of the season last year, they ranked 32nd in dropback rate over expected and 31st in plays per minute over expected. So it was Josh Jacobs and nobody else over the second half of the 2024 season. And I expect that to continue because it worked for them in terms of winning games.
So even though they added Golden, that's not going to change how they run their offense.
I don't think so. Now, I do see Reed and Golden as very explosive players who don't need as many touches as other guys to produce, but still, I want the guys that earn targets for the most part, and Reed and Golden will be very volatile this year. They'll have some spike weeks for sure, but the consistency will not be there.
Whoa, in the chat, Jamie Prague is saying that Jeudy got a quarterback upgrade this offseason. What?
That's ridiculous.
No. For fantasy football, there's no upgrade on Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's one of the best quarterbacks you could have. Joe Flacco is not an upgrade. Joe Flacco's Joe Flacco, man. Joe Flacco's 41 years old. 40?
And he was good. He was good for the Browns 2 years ago. And if you watch the Colts last year, you know that Joe Flacco was horrible. Absolutely
He's
awful.
Joe Flacco. He's terrible. No, man. Yeah, he wasn't good for the Colts last year.
No,
he's done. The guy's toast.
Yes.
What are we talking about here? Jameis Winston's still like in his early 30s. He could still sling it the same as he could when he was in his early 20s. There's no problem with Jameis Winston. Flacco is dust. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. It's a bad situation. But Flacco to Njoku, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
right? That's fine. But number one receiver on one of the worst offenses in the league, can't do it. Can't do it. Won't do it. Can't do it. What about a guy like, I can't believe Jonnu Smith had 13 fantasy points per game last year. Is that real?
Yeah, man. The second half of the season, he was just straight up better than Tyreek Hill. I think a lot of it has to do with the changing offense that we talked about earlier, the A dot falling off of a cliff, and that really suits somebody like Jonnu Smith, and where that's kind of all that he can do. Um, but he is one of the Dolphins that I'm not, I will draft him sometimes. I am open to drafting him sometimes, as opposed to guys like Tyreek or Achane, where I'm just kind of out.
You're just kind of, yeah, you're not kind of out. You're all the way out. What do we do?
Kind of out on Achane, totally out on Tyreek.
What do we do with Travis Hunter? He's an interesting case, and I recently published a video on YouTube with my do not draft list. And on the last My Dimension show, I kind of laid it out for people. I can't draft Travis Hunter. I just can't. I don't see the benefit. If I'm in a best ball league, or in particular if I'm like the FFPC, the main event, and I'm setting my lineup, it's hard to see that paying off.
Fourth round price tag.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I can't believe where he's getting drafted.
Yeah.
Wild
I mean,
stuff.
I love Travis Hunter, but it would take kind of a miracle for that to pay off. I do expect him to play some on defense as well. He's not going to be only a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's a very good player, but
Yeah.
paying off a round 4 price tag as a rookie, as a wide receiver 2 in your own offense, with a quarterback that we haven't seen actually be that great yet. We like him this year, but there's no guarantee there. It just needs everything to go right for him to pay off that fourth round price tag.
We are a very well seasoned operation. You see that with the influence of a guy like a Billy Muzio. And, you know, maybe 5 years ago, this wouldn't have been the case. But we have become such a cool, cold, clinical operation. And the best place to see it is at slot 45 in the rankings, where we have Sutton and Ridley. These are dusty, post prime receivers, but they happen to also be in great situations, featured options in their offenses. And once upon a time, these were big time playmakers people were excited about. And it's just that they've lost their brand luster over the last few years. But it wasn't that long ago, everyone loved Calvin Ridley and everyone
Mm-hmm.
loved Cortland Sutton. And now they've moved on. They've moved on to who? Xavier Worthy, Travis Hunter, Marvin Harrison Jr. And we have Ridley and Sutton ahead of all of those guys. And yet, on Underdog, they're going 10 spots or 20 spots even after those guys.
Yep. And yeah, I will make a bet with anybody right now that Sutton or Ridley will outproduce Travis Hunter this year. Um, I could totally see Hunter working out, but everything has to go right. Meanwhile, Sutton is just going to rack up targets, rack up air yards. Last year, he was 13th in targets, second in air yards, and they haven't really added anyone of consequence there. Basically, the same offense that we expect to take another step. So give me that guy, the guy who's a end zone threat. Only a couple guys like him in the league in that regard. And then Calvin Ridley is moving from Will Levis to Cam Ward. So that's a pretty big upgrade there. And there's not much target competition either. He's just going to earn a ton of targets and produce.
It's what's going to happen. It's just what do we do in Dynasty? You'd much rather have Tet McMillan than Travis Hunter?
Yes.
Easily, right?
These two guys we were talking about, actually, Ridley and Sutton, first and second in air yards last year. So I guess you can say I like my
Wait,
air
Calvin
yards.
Ridley was number
Mm-hmm.
1 in air yards last year?
Yep.
Oh, but it makes sense because he's all they had, and it was Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it's just air, right? First down, air. Second down, air.
Yeah.
Third down,
Yeah.
air. You're open,
Not
doesn't
a whole lot
matter.
of real yards.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not real yards. It's Levis is going to airmail it for sure. He's
Yeah.
not going to connect, but Calvin Ridley will entice you as a quarterback to throw it deep. The fact that he is getting deep even late into his 20s is a very good sign. The
Yeah.
fact
And
that
it could
Cortland
be
Sutton
an
is
Aaron
still
Jones
getting deep at this
situation.
point, very good sign.
Yeah. You went on that Aaron Jones rant earlier. He doesn't have much tread on the tires, He should be able to stay explosive even into his 30s.
Yeah, I can't believe we can't. I'd love to tout guys like R.J. Harvey and young players like guys with all the juice. And what are we doing here, man? We're sitting down. We're talking Calvin Ridley. We're talking Cortland Sutton, and we're telling everyone in all leagues they have to stash Roschon Johnson.
Absolutely.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.